Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing swatching Niamh Style using the new release paints from the Dina Wakley February release. So these are the new paints and I am breaking all colour theory rules by doing this page. I knew that this was not going to be a pretty background because I am mixing warm and cool colours, I am mixing opposites. It just wasn't going to be great, but I wanted to see how these colours worked, what they looked like on my page. And this is for me, instead of just swatching out little bits, if I actually use them in my book, it makes it more meaningful for me and I have fun doing it. So for those of you who are very au fait with the colour wheel, who are probably groaning going, what are you doing, woman? It's okay, I know I was breaking all the rules, but it's fine. So I am going in with the orangey red colour is called Tangelo. Then I've got Rouge, which is the pinky colour. Sage is the light green. There is Syrup is that sort of browny colour, which was looking a little bit interesting the way I used it here. I've actually grown to really love that colour. It was my favourite in gloss sprays. This doesn't do it justice at all, but so please be aware of that. And then the last colour I put on was the Fur, which is a dark green colour. So once I put the colours in the background, I had a pretty good idea of what they looked just on white. So I'm not mixing them out, I'm using them as straight as I possibly can, so they're sort of at their opacest. Now what I want to do is see how they looked over the top of each other. Again, I had a pretty good idea of, you know, they're not going to look great, there would be other colours that would look better with, but I just wanted to see how they worked against themselves. So I'm going in with my stencils and using the same colours I've used in the background. So you can see I'm sort of starting off with stenciling. So with the Tangelo, this orange colour, I'm starting off in an orange part and then extending the stenciling out. So you can see I'm sort of getting some muddy, dark, grungy colours happening in different places, which may or may not be attractive to some people. But that's how the cookie crumbles. Now I'm going in with the Rouge, which is this sort of pinky colour. And what I was finding was, even though not necessarily using them all together, they still stood out from each other. So the opacity of the paints was really good. So these are all things that you sort of, particularly when you're doing mixed media, it's really helpful to know that, like, you know, if that orange had been very translucent, it's not really going to work very well as a stenciling over the top of something, whereas I could stencil it over the top of those other colours and it still stood out. I could stencil it over the top of itself and it was able to stand out. You know, this green works really well over top of anything because it's obviously that much darker effect. The lighter colour, because it's got a bit of white obviously in it as a paler colour, is still standing out okay over those brighter colours. It's not allowing seep through. It's able to, you know, block out the background, so to speak. So I was learning a lot as I was doing this, and even though in my head I was going, Niamh, this looks ridiculous, these colours are not working together, I was still learning a lot about these colours. So I really liked it when I started putting the mark making on, because I had a bit of extra paint left on my palette, so I thought, well, why not? So again, that sage colour stands out really well over the top of the rest. You can see how opaque it is and it's blocking out the background. So, you know, all good stuff to know when you're using your paints. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with swatching bits of paper and using them in those ways. I do not have a problem with people doing that. I'm just not organised enough to do that. I find I learn as I do. So by doing a page where I'm actually using some of the techniques I would usually use on a page, I can say that works, that doesn't, and I find that more helpful to me and my style. It may or may not be helpful to you, each to your own. If I was doing this again, I probably would say don't use all these colours together, but it gives you a good way of seeing how they all work. So because I wanted something to stand out from the background, if I'd tried to stamp these on the background, it really would have blended in. I wanted to break up all that colour. Obviously, it's a bit of madness in the background. So what I chose to do was glue these collage tissues onto a piece of white card. so it would stand out. Now, if you didn't have these, you could obviously use the stamped image to just stamp it onto white card or to something else, so it stands out from the background somewhat. So once I've finished that, I'm then going in and fussy cutting each of the figures. And I just want to have sort of this group standing on my page in some way, shape or form. Then I got a little bit crazy and decided I wanted to cut out all these little ones too. Usually when I've done this in the past, I've cut out the 3 big ones and then cut out this row and glued them down in the background. So you sort of see the background through them. But in this page, I did want to have that extra white. So I want to sort of have this group of figures all standing there. Yeah, but it was just a pain to cut them all out. I'm glad it's all sped up so you don't have to sit and watch every snippet. Okay, so this is where you sort of get to play with the figure, how it all goes together. So I was playing around with, you know, which ones I want to overlap where, how they all go together. I had some of the paper peeling up a little bit, so I just glued that down. And then once I've finished working out where I want them to go, then I start gluing everything down. So again, I'm sort of thinking about how everything is grounded, so obviously everything is touching that bottom of the page, just so it sort of fits together. I'm also overlapping some of the images, so I've obviously got those little guys sitting in a row, but then I'm putting some in front as well. So thinking about how everything goes together is really important. Once I finish that, I'm now going in with my white pen to put the little catch-alls in each of the eyes, which seems a little bit pointless, but it does actually make a big difference in the end. I'm then going around with my white pen and doing some sketchy line work over the top, just again to sort of blend everything together. And then I'm going to go into my Stabilo oil pencil and put some shadowing around my figures, so that you can sort of see which one's in the foreground, which one's being pushed to the background. And that's just a really easy way to add a little bit of depth to your page. It'll also help push those figures out from the background and make them just that little bit more separate. I like using the Stabilo oil pencil to do that, because basically I draw a line and wet it and I've got an instant shadow. Yeah, if you've got intense pencils or, you know, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. I just find that one really convenient for me. Then I'm going in with some paint pens to just put a little bit of colour onto my figures. Now, I probably should have kept with the colours I'd used in the background. I did start off with sort of that pinky colour, but now I'm adding in blues and yellows, which, to be honest, again, really works against the background. But I was having fun. So usually when you're doing stuff like this, having either repetition of shape or repetition of colour is probably the best way to go, best idea. So I probably should have been using sort of some oranges or greens or something on those shapes, but I just went rogue, as I quite often do. And then I decided I wanted to put a quote on this page. So I put, "We're all in this together and stay safe." And I did this because I think I actually did this, it must have been the first week of us going back to school in Tasmania. So we're in week 3 now, but this was done in our first week back. It was our first time in schools wearing masks, so that was a new thing. It was a first for students as well, so because I'm now working in a high school, the high school students have to wear masks. It was just my reflection on the week of how we're all working together. I was actually really pleasantly surprised. Our kids have done a really great job. I was a little bit unsure how high school students would go with having their masks on, but apart from the odd reminder here and there, 99% of them have done an amazing job and are continuing to do an amazing job with it, which I'm really pleased with. So it's been quite good, and we've sort of seen the results in our school and the fact that we haven't had too many cases, which has been awesome. So long may it continue. But that's where my head was when I was doing this, sort of all that crowd of people standing together. That's where my mind instantly went. So you can see how I start off, you know, going from just swatching out the colours to see how they work to when my finished page just takes me where my head goes. I decided to just balance it up again with a little bit of the white dots in the background. So to help tie it all together, I've got a lot of white happening on the page, and one of the reasons for that is white space is really important for you to rest your eye. So you've got those dots leading you across the page. It helps also take away from the madness of the background, which I quite like as well. So I hope this has been useful to you. It might help you when you've got new supplies just to play and swatch and see what works and what doesn't, what colours work together and what colours don't. And it can be a completely crazy page, and that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, bye for now.